This video is a part 3 of the top 10 strongest bladers in each arc of the Metal series, so definitely go watch parts 1 and 2 if you haven't done so already. In this third and final part, we're going to be discussing the top 10 strongest bladers from every arc of Beyblade Metal Fury. But as most of you already know, this isn't an ordinary top 10 video. Like previously stated, we are making a top 10 list for each arc, but the top 10 is solely based off of what we knew at the time in each arc. For example, let's go back to Metal Masters. In the Lavushka arc, we were introduced to some pretty strong characters, and Kyoya fell all the way down to number 7. Now, are Deshayan, Julian, Wales, and Sophie actually stronger than Kyoya? Of course not. But at that time in this arc, all we saw from Kyoya in Metal Masters was his battle with Tsubasa 2 arcs ago. It was an impressive victory, but he used the same moves from Metal Fusion, so he couldn't have gotten that much stronger. But then in the Wildfang arc, we finally see Kyoya again, and now he's number 2. He mastered the tornado, he made like 2 brand new special moves, and he tied with the main character. So basically, at the end of every arc, we make a top 10 list based off of what characters showed in that arc and previous arcs. We're basically pretending that we haven't watched the rest of the show. I gave a more in-depth explanation in part 1, so if you're still a little bit confused, go watch that video again. But before we jump right into the Metal Fury rankings, I want to give credit to New Horizons, once again, for inspiring this series with his own series. He did this same top 10 in every arc idea, but for Naruto, and that inspired this series right here on the channel. So if you like Naruto, definitely go check him out. He's got a lot of great videos posted. But now let's hop right into the first arc of Metal Fury. Here we are. Post-World Championships, post-Hades City, here's where we left off with our top 10. This list is full of powerful bladers, but in this new season, we get introduced to the Star Fragment. And that's actually going to be the name of this arc because I couldn't think of anything better. So the Star Fragment arc is going to be episodes 103 to 105. And it basically introduces us to the main plot point of the season and a few important characters. A huge takeaway from this arc is going to be the concept of legendary bladers, because in terms of ranking characters based off of strength, which is what we're doing, the phrase legendary blader is very interesting. A lot of times I subconsciously rank legendary bladers higher just because they have that title, but today we're going to be as fair as possible while making this list. So just because a character is a legendary blader, that doesn't automatically grant them a spot in the top 10. They have to earn it. So with that being said, here's the top 10 bladers from the Star Fragment arc. Not a lot of changes. I mean, this arc is only 3 episodes long, and we're just getting started in terms of the new season. Kyoya and Jinga remain tied because they tied once again. They have new Beyblades now, and it seems like they have a lot of power, but they just haven't learned how to use it yet. That's why they're not above Ryuga or Faust. And then the only other addition was Johannes at the 10. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sure how to rank him. I had to rewatch a ton of episodes, but for this arc, I think this ranking is pretty fair. Johannes is just difficult to rank in general because in terms of power, he's not top tier, but he always has some tricks up his sleeve, and it makes him a very difficult opponent to face. So maybe he's not conventionally strong like other characters on this list, but we're gonna see in the next few arcs, he has a couple of matches against powerful bladers that really have no business being as close as they were. But yeah, he had a good match against Jinga, even though Jinga had no idea how to use Pegasus yet. But I personally just don't see him being able to KO Jack, for example. He just doesn't have that power. But that's all for this arc. Not many changes, but with the main characters searching for legendary bladers, surely we're going to find some new additions. Moving on to episodes 106 to 109, we have the Ryuga arc. Ryuga is revealed to be our 3rd legendary blader, and he shows a level of power unlike anything we've ever seen before, and he easily reclaims his spot at the top. But besides that, no other changes. Jinga and Kyoya still don't really know how to use their Beyblades. I mean, that was kind of the whole point of this arc, so right now they're still below Faust. And then Yuki's going to get an honorable mention for awakening as a legendary blader and for standing up to Ryuga for a few seconds. It's an impressive feat, but it's not enough to get him on the list. So that's all for the Ryuga arc in terms of top 10, but something else pretty interesting happened. Kenta feels useless, so he leaves the group to follow Ryuga, and he can only get stronger by following a guy like that, so we'll be on the lookout for Kenta. Moving on, we have the Toriumon arc, which is episodes 110 to 114. This arc is named after the tag team tournament that took place in China, and it revealed our 5th legendary blader. It also gave us a very interesting subplot for the Balin Temple and some pretty cool fights. Before you click off the video, please let me explain. Aguma is not stronger than Ryuga, but for what we're doing in this video, we can only work with what we saw in this arc. And Beyblade has a thing for making new characters seem insanely overpowered. It happened when you beat Jinga and Kyoya, it happened when Damien beat Excalibur, and it happened here when Aguma beat Kyoya and Jinga's team. His special move is massive, and he has a few other techniques as well. You'll also notice that Jinga and Kyoya remained locked together, but this time they surpassed Faust. Another noteworthy point is Deshayan. He had a really big chance to show improvement in this arc, but unfortunately he didn't. He looks the same blader we saw in Masters, which isn't a bad thing. He was really strong in Metal Masters, but power levels are only going to increase. If you don't increase with it, you're going to get left behind. I mean, he had another good fight with Jinga, but my problem is how he performed against Johannes. Yes, Johannes is difficult to fight against. I know he would have won the match had it continued, but the Deshayan I know from Metal Masters would have put Johannes away early. He would have quickly realized all the tricks Johannes had up his sleeve and come up with a plan to take him down. He's still very strong, but maybe this is the writer's way of telling us that, generally speaking, older characters are falling behind the newer, stronger characters. And also, no Bao in the top 10. Yuki boxed him up. But moving on, we have the Destroyer Dome arc, which is episodes 115 to 119. And oh boy, did this arc give us a lot. So many characters introduced and reintroduced in this singular tournament. First up, Ryuga's going to take his #1 spot back with a dominant win over the strongest version of Tsubasa we've seen up to this point. And then we have our 6th legendary blader, King. I have him 2nd place because of everything he did in this arc. Insanely powerful special move, countless different mode changes which makes him a pain to fight against, and he uses reverse rotation. Also, Varieris is considered a legendary Bay for whatever that's worth. But on the other hand, we just haven't seen enough from Jinga and Kyoya. They're both fresh off of a loss to Aguma, and they take a break from battling in this arc. So they're gonna catch up to him eventually, but right now, King is above them. Another addition is Masamune, and he's climbed back onto the list and into the top 5. I have him above Tsubasa because he did a little bit better against King, and he has a new Beyblade with mode changes, which always helps. And the last new addition is going to be Jigsaw. He beat Jack with one move, he can disappear, and his special move is incredibly strong. As you can see, Faust and Damien are steadily falling off the list, and it's because they haven't had any battles. I think with rising power levels, all the characters above Faust could break out of his black hole with their special moves, and tempo is based off of Beyblades from Metal Masters, and in Metal Fury, characters are just so much stronger. But yeah, those are all the changes from Destroyer Dome, so now we can move on to the Mist Mountain arc, which is episodes 120 to 124. Here's where we meet our 7th legendary blader, we get a ton of battles, and we get so much lore dropped on us with the whole Nemesis story. So here's the top 10 for Mist Mountain. Only one new addition, but Dynamis is going to take 2nd place. He beat Ryuto, and then right after that he fought Jinga, and if I remember right, he outplayed Jinga for the entire match. And had it continued, I think Dynamis probably could have won. He has the ball bearings for stamina and balance, his special move is dangerous, and his battle IQ is right up there with Tsubasa. This next change may be controversial, but I have Kyoya going above Jinga in this arc. His win over Aguma was very impressive, it was a great moment for his character, and I don't want to hear anyone discrediting this win by saying, oh, it's just Aguma. Yes, Aguma fell off bad, but that was after this. Kyoya beat him before the fall off. And then for Jinga, he hasn't really done anything significant yet. He lost to Ryuga, he lost to Aguma, then he took a break during the Destroyer Dome arc, and now we're here at Mist Mountain. Now, he did beat Ryuto, which is impressive, but it's really nothing to brag about if you're on Jinga's level. And he did have his match with Dynamis, but he was getting outplayed. So that's why I think Kyoya is just barely above him here. Then I have King dropping below Kyoya and Jinga because I think by this point, they both know how to use their Beyblades. The battles would still be very close, but I think they both come out on top. That's going to wrap up Mist Mountain, so now we can move on to the Baster Island arc, which is episodes 125 to 128. Ryuga's 1st place again, that's pretty easy, but the rest of the top 5 was very difficult to make. From 2nd to 6th, you could legitimately put the characters in any order you want, and it would probably make sense. But since we're just talking about Baster Island, I think I'm putting Chris at the 3. Maybe that's a crazy take, but I don't see a lot of people surviving this full power special move. He's also got infinite stamina, and when Ryuga showed up, he went after Chris's power only. He could have picked Jinga, Aguma, or anyone else's power to absorb, but he chose Chris. And then it's Kyoya barely above Jinga once again, and then King at the 6. You know the list is stacked when King is number 6. Dynamis is going to hold on to his spot at 2nd place because the display he put on was almost magical. The lightning strike, Zeus coming down from the heavens. I mean, at this point, he just seems like he's a higher being or something like that. Obviously, we know that's not the case, but for the sake of this video, we don't know what happens later on. but hey, at the end of this arc, the cloaked guy controls him, so who knows what'll happen. But look at this top 10. There's so much talent here that King and Aguma are both outside of the top 5. And at this point, Metal Master's characters are completely off of the list, which shows you just how far power levels have come. But anyways, that's gonna wrap up Baster Island, so now we're gonna move on to what I would call a mini arc. It's not long enough to be an arc, I guess, but it tells its own story, and it doesn't really fit anywhere else. So next up, we have the Tithy arc, which is episodes 129 to 130. This arc basically follows Kyoya as he leaves the group, and he ends up in Peru or Mexico. I don't really know where exactly, but he is far away. It looks like Machu Picchu. But anyways, he bumps into you and our final legendary blader, Tithy. Because this arc is only 2 episodes, there isn't really much to talk about. Obviously, Tithy's gonna make the cut, and he's gonna be above Aguma. He looked really strong, and he's difficult to fight against, but we just haven't seen enough to put him any higher. And then our last change is actually gonna be you getting the number 10 spot. Kyoya's special move was not enough to finish him, and the final Inferno Blast looks really powerful. Also, this whole time, Yu's been training, so that's why we're giving him the 10 spot. Tsubasa still may be able to beat him in a match, just because he can cancel shockwaves, but we just haven't seen enough from Tsubasa these days, and what you did here was very impressive. So, we now have all the legendary bladers found, and we're finally ready for the big reveal of Nemesis. These next few arcs are going to be very difficult to rank, so bear with me. There's so many characters coming in and out of the story, and there's just so much going on. But with that being said, let's hop into the revival arc, which is episodes 131 to 135. Right off the bat, we have a new number 1. Rago, or I guess Nemesis, takes first place. I say or Nemesis because even without Rago, Nemesis tanked the combined special moves of Dynamis, Chris, and Aguma, and then Nemesis overpowered them all. That is insane. Not to mention, he only gets stronger in this arc as he goes from the prototype to the full thing. Jinga and Kyoya are also going to be level once again, and they rise to 3rd place. Jinga beat Chris and Kyoya beat Dynamis, so it just makes sense. Also, Dynamis is struggling with what looks to be a form of the dark power, and because of that, he doesn't seem as strong as he once was. But that's all the changes here. None of the Nemesis goons break into the list. Doji comes back, but he doesn't fight. So yeah, that's the revival arc. So now we can move on to the final arc of Metal Fury, the Nemesis arc, episodes 136 to 141. This arc gives us iconic fights, iconic moments, and it beautifully wraps up the series. So here's the top 10. First and second stay the same. Ryuga only reinforces his title as the world's strongest blader. It's just Nemesis is basically a demigod, so he lost. But no one else could even fight Nemesis for half the amount of time Ryuga did, so major props to him. And for our final edition of the video, Kenta makes his way back onto the list for the first time since Metal Fusion. What a comeback for Kenta. He obviously inherited Ryuga's star fragment. He had a very impressive win over Pluto. Diving arrow looks powerful, and he was tanking an all-out barrage attack from Rago. That last one is specifically impressive because this is the same Rago who was tossing everyone else around. And then I'm also going to slide you back into the 10 spot again, just because of this scene right here. Yes, Masamune and Tsubasa helped, but the only one to actually cut through the force field was Yu's Inferno Blast. Like, I don't see Striker or Eagle breaking out, it was mainly Yu. That's just my pick though. You could honestly put Yu, Masamune, or Tsubasa at 10, and it'd make sense. But yeah, that's all the changes for the last arc of Metal Fury. The only other thing I'd add is if you want to take Jinga from the final battle with the help of every blader on Earth, he'd be first place above Rago. But because he couldn't call on that power consistently, I didn't take it into account. Like, that amp was clearly a one-time thing, so he could save the world. But yeah, look at this top 10. It's as stacked as it gets. Here's the top 10 at the start of Fury, here's the top 10 at the start of Masters, and here's the top 10 at the start of Metal Fusion. Look at how far we've come. Osamu, Takashi, and Akira in the top 10 compared to this behemoth of a list. Power levels are higher than we ever thought possible at the start of this series. To do a broad recap, Jinga and Kyoya have actually been in every top 10 list from start to finish. Ryuga's right there behind them, but he just got introduced a few arcs too late to have been in the top 10 for the entire series. But also, Ryuga has never left the top 5, which is crazy for someone who's been in the series for as long as he has. Characters come and go all the time, yet Ryuga has stayed in the top 5 for the entire show. But yeah, that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for all the support shown during this series. It was a ton of fun to make, and be sure to let me know any ideas for a new series. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.